Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
All right, welcome back to podcast 6 of 2019. I am your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at The Odds Breakers and follow us on social media /The Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by MyBookie.ag for a 50% sign up bonus. Please visit MyBookie. Use the promo code The Odds Breakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs and sponsor the podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $17.99 a month, you can get my picks and premium plays before the line moves. For $2 more, you can have all that and become a patron subscriber. Get the podcast a little bit early. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, huge week. We have Super Bowl Sunday coming up. We have some huge plays for you and some great guests. We have Mr. K.C. Schneider from Pro Football Edge and Execute the Lines to come and speak to us about his company, his great winning percentages in the NFL, and a little bit about the Super Bowl. We have Mr. Marco D'Angelo from WagerTalk.com back to talk about the Super Bowl, the sides, the totals, the prop market. We go in deep into those plays. We also talk about college basketball to give you some action before the Super Bowl for this weekend, giving out some plays. It's going to be a great weekend of sports betting, my friends, and I'm very happy to bring on this great show. Before I have our guests on, I want to thank all of you listeners to being with us thick and thin, the kind things that you say, the great emails I'm getting, the Twitter messages. That's exactly what I love to see, that we're doing a good job. And the fact that we put so much time into this, our members, the handicappers that come on the Odds Breakers, it's all because of you guys. So I'm in debt to you guys. Full gratitude. Thank you so much for becoming just listeners to this podcast. All premium members, a special thank you to you. You keep us moving and paying for our costs. Just want to say that this is going to be a huge and fun weekend for all. Now, I want to say that these interviews went pretty long, especially the one with Marco. So I want to get right into what's important so we can give some time back to your day. Let's introduce our first guest from Pro Football Edge and Execute the Lines, Mr. K.C. Schneider. Now I'm very happy to introduce a great NFL handicapper who had a fantastic season this past year. He's been having a lot of fantastic seasons, actually, if you look at his record. I'd like to welcome Mr. K.C. Schneider from ProFootballEdge.com. You can follow him on Twitter or Instagram at Pro Football Edge. How are things going, KC? How'd your season go?
They are going great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a great season. It was a weird season, I would say. But for me, 63%, that's pretty good. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, when the best of the best are hitting, the 55, 56, 57%, that is just that's a great season. And no complaints from your clients, I'm sure.
No.
How long have you been doing this? How long have you been in the industry itself for the handicapping and the betting?
Well, and I'll try to give a condensed version. I've been interested in it pretty much since I was 4 years old. And you'd think, well, how is that possible? Well, you wouldn't even know what betting was at that age. Well, I kind of grew up in a betting family. Everybody around me bet. My aunt, my uncles, my grandparents, my father, everybody would come over and bet, and I'd see everybody, and they'd be having such a great time, but then they'd lose. And so I thought, how can you do this? There's got to be a way to do this and win. So, I mean, I literally, as a little kid, spent time in my room going through statistics and notes and trying to figure this out all the way through high school and college, and I wasn't the greatest student because this is all I wanted to do, and I tweaked things and slowly kind of figured it out and started doing it on my own. And I want to say it was around 20. Well, it was even before that. I was doing it with my own system, and somebody approached me about creating a website and doing it as a business, and so I started doing that around 2012, and it's been great ever since.
Fantastic, man. So 2012, 8-9 years it looks like you've been doing that, and that's when you started Pro Football Edge?
Well, actually I had two websites, Execute the Lines, and we recently put up Pro Football Edge. It was brought to my attention because I'm not the greatest as far as computer or technology or that kind of thing. I want to pay attention to just what I do and picking winners. So I had some partners come on, and they created the whole new website, gave it a new update and a new look, and more with the times and the Twitter, and so they created Pro Football Edge. But they're both me.
Cool. Well, so is your system based upon more analytical towards your handicaps, or is it kind of more spot plays and or I'm sure maybe some of both?
It's a little bit of both. I created my own kind of system, if you will. I create my own line. I run every game through my system. It takes quite a bit of time per game, but I get a line on the game. I compare that. It's kind of in a nutshell. I compare that to the line that the books put out there. And really it's kind of simplifying it, but whatever that difference is in spread is kind of what I give the game, the number that I give the game. So anything that comes out in my system under a 3, meaning closer to the spread, than what I have, if it's less than a 3, I don't bet the game. I don't send it to my clients. It's just a no play. So the lowest rated game in my system that I'll ever have is a 3. And then we get 4s and occasional 5, but it's pretty much 3s and 4s.
So a deviation from the line of 3 is where you start to make a play at. And
correct.
Is that on sides and totals or halves, or is that just sides?
No, I don't do totals. I don't do halves. None of that. It's really strictly for people who are looking at this as a way to make money. Serious bettors. I know there's other guys out there, and they'll do props and they'll do all this kind of stuff, and even other sports. I boil it down to my best plays. I don't bet every game so I don't necessarily take every Monday game or every Thursday game. I'm looking for value. I'm looking at the numbers that come up in my system because this is all I do. And I take every game that I send my clients. So if I don't win, they don't win. If they don't win, I don't win. And so it's just strictly about me making a living and making money for my clients.
That's the only way to do it, my man. That's awesome. You absolutely put up the money that they have to, and it's a winning year, which mostly is, sounds like. Your clients are happy, but if you ever lose, you're going to lose too. So that's definitely the best way to do it. So on average, how many plays can you get out a week since you're so selective?
So, normally it comes down to between 4 to 6 per week. And I'm looking at my spreadsheet here. But there's I want to say it was week 16. I probably, because there were some Saturday games in there. There was maybe 7 or 8 games. Mm-hmm. So, but on average, I want to say 6, maybe 6 a week.
Gotcha. Do you stay away from anything like Thursday night situations, Monday nights, or are they all the same to you?
Nope, it's all the same. So I don't. And people ask me, you're going to send out the Monday game. Well, not if it's not. If it doesn't come up in my system that we have a good chance of winning that bet. I'm not going to play it. So whether it's a Thursday, a Monday, it just depends. If it comes up in my system, I play it, and if it doesn't, I don't. I don't look at the time. I don't look at the London game, 6:30 a.m. I don't doesn't make any difference to me.
Any trends on those games or anything does not bother you whatsoever, right?
No, not at all. To me, it's it's the old adage about the roulette wheel. It can come up 10 times red, and that doesn't mean the 11th time it's going to come up black. So I'm not one into trends.
There you go. Well, now I love that. A lot of people have a better time fading some of those very popular trends that come on. It's and people they don't know when to do it, but there's always every year going to be a team that is much positive, very far to the positive. Let's just say against the spread, like 15-3 ATS, like Alabama is in basketball right now. And then there's going to be some teams that are 3-15. It's going to happen every year because just that's how it is, and it has nothing necessarily to do with how the next game's going to be perceived when the line comes out. People might even start to think you have to bet them, which would drive it in the other direction, drive the value in the other direction. So totally get what you're saying there. People got to be careful with that. So cool, man. Do you ever handicap other sports, or is it just all NFL?
It's all NFL, and do I wish I could do other sports and do it year round? I do, but I don't pretend to tell people. I do baseball. I love baseball. I could probably do okay at baseball, but it's about winning and winning at a high level. And, I'm good at NFL, and so that's all I do is NFL. I'm sure there's guys that are great, at other sports, yourself, different people, but I'm good at the NFL, and that's all I do.
Well, that's fantastic. And so you're so concentrated on that. All your time goes into that. That's probably why you have such a good record every single year coming out of this thing, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I do. I put a lot of time into it.
And I think you told me before 2 hours per game at least, and that's a lot of time. I don't know a lot of cappers that spend that kind of time. I mean, a one NFL card without the bye weeks, 16 games, do the math, that's almost 40-hour work week right there, just if you did the minimum of what you do per game. So, and that's just one sport. So that's what I love about what you do and how much you concentrate like that. That is awesome. Well, obviously the big game is coming up here, and the Super Bowl, and it's not always the sharpest line. It's not always the best line to bet, because it usually is the sharpest line coming from the bookmakers, and they all kind of copy each other. Then it settles down. Obviously, it's something we have to talk about. So, what are your thoughts on this game? We don't even have to talk about any value. Is there? It's the big dance. It's the end of the road here, the biggest game around. It's like a national holiday. Of course, if there is some value from the side, I'd love to hear about it. But otherwise, what are your thoughts about this Super Bowl?
Well, first of all, I wish it was a national holiday. It should be a national holiday, or move the game to Saturday. But either way, of all the Super Bowls that I can remember, and I remember them all, this is the closest one. I mean, usually going into a game, at least as far as I'm concerned, there was always one team that I felt good about, confident about, that I wanted to play. This game, this is a tough one. If ever a game was truly a pick'em, I see this one as a pick'em. The Chiefs and the offense, you got the Niners and the defense and the D-line and the running game and Mahomes, and it's just a really tough game to handicap. I am leaning towards one team in this game, but this is one of those games I could see going either direction.
Yeah, me too. I said the same thing, and that's what makes it such a great game to watch, and not necessarily have to sweat anything out in it. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be bummed out after the Super Bowl, right? This is a game to just to enjoy, and the fact that you have a super powerful defense running the best possible rushing game in the whole league against the most finesse, possibly the best quarterback we've seen in a very long time. Next to Tom Brady's prime, Patty Mahomes has just been fantastic. It's just such a great matchup of that back and forth. Both teams kind of got healthy at the right time too, so I'm just excited to watch it. And obviously, I'm sure your not listeners, your clients are bugging you for a side, and you probably have to keep telling them what you just told me, right?
Yeah, and everybody's anxious for me to send out the email, but I always tell my clients, look, it's a long season, and when you get to the Super Bowl or even the playoffs, we want to protect what we worked so hard for those 17 weeks, that profit that we now have banked. And so, especially on a game like this, for anybody betting the game, I wouldn't go crazy. It's a tough game. And if you're a client of mine, you protect your profits. We had 63% on the season. We were 60, 32, and 3. We had 2 5-0 weeks. Don't cut into that with one game. I know it's fun. It's a Super Bowl. You want to bet the national anthem and all this kind of stuff, but just do it for fun, and hopefully I feel like we'll be on the right side. But
all right, man. Well, that's fantastic, and that is great advice. Yeah, just use something that is not going to make you over-invested in this game. Just sit down and relax and enjoy it, my man. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Casey, for coming on. I really appreciate it, my man. Very interested to obviously talk more, and I really hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. Can't wait to watch it myself.
Same here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And let's root for a great game, and we'll talk soon.
All right. If you listeners are serious about winning in the NFL next year, please check out ProFootballEdge.com. Check out Casey on Twitter and execute the lines. And now I'm very excited to welcome back one of the best and most respected handicappers in all of Las Vegas. You've seen and heard him many times on VSiN, watching Bet On It, the Wager Talk podcast, and many radio stations and shows all over America. I'm pretty pleased to welcome back Mr. Marco D'Angelo from WagerTalk.com. You can follow Marco on Twitter at Marco in Vegas. Super Bowl time, Marco! How's it been going?
Oh, it's been going good. I'm waiting to see the bill for that intro. Man, thanks.
Well, my man, you deserve it because you're the man. When it comes to this type of thing, you've got the most experience, and people love to listen to you, Marco. So don't shoot yourself down in any ways. We love you. So I
appreciate that. For anybody that hasn't been to Vegas on Super Bowl week, it's a bucket list. It really is. It's just crazy out here. This is one of the biggest tourist weekends of the entire year for Vegas. Obviously, New Year's Eve is, the king. We get 300,000 people jammed on the strip for New Year's Eve. But the Super Bowl, and one that I know you've partaken in quite a bit, that first week of March Madness, that the Thursday to Sunday, is just insane out here. So those are the two big sporting events out here, to come out for that. And then, of course, for me, I love, the Triple Crown races, and when we get Kentucky Derby Saturday and being in the sports book, and it's just a fun time to be out here.
Absolutely. Summers in Vegas, all the pool parties, you can't beat it, man. And it's always kind of starts up in March, all the many, many years I go to the March Madness thing. I've even done the Sweet 16 a couple times, and there's less people. There's less, guys. The lines are not as long, and sometimes that's the better weekend. And now, obviously, you're going to get less games and less parlays, but so what? You get to trade one for the other. You still get some college basketball and some serious interest. I love the Sweet 16 weekend as well, man.
Yeah, that's definitely a pro move if you don't want to be, going with all the people because March Madness that first week, people take their vacations. I mean, that's the annual guys' trip to Vegas, and they'll plan their vacation for that week, and they'll come out and do that. And I love it for me because after guys, I love when the tourists come. They're watching basketball for basically 12 hours. Okay, the game started 9 in the morning here. The last games are finishing at midnight on the East Coast. They've been watching basketball. They've been drinking all day, and now the games are done, and it's still only 9:30 at night in Vegas. You know what? I've seen poker on TV. That looks pretty cool. Let's go play some poker. Yeah, come on in. I got a seat for you.
Marco will be sitting there waiting.
Yep.
Perfect, man. No, that's hilarious. I'm sure there's more like you that like to pick some people off, but hey, they're having fun. That's disposable income from them. They'll go all in on a 7-3 flop. So,
Hey, you know what? I'll take good care of their chips for them. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure you will, my man. Well, let's talk about some exciting stuff coming up in Vegas. Obviously, the new Raider Stadium is looking like some giant spaceship from Independence Day or something. That thing looks kind of cool with the metallic black on the edge.
I mean, where it's located at is for anybody driving in from California, right as they're about to hit the Strip, that's what they're going to see on the freeway. And it's just, it's pretty impressive. I'm excited about it. We're just, when it comes, tickets are going to be insane. That's something that it's going to be a hard ticket to get. We saw that the first year with the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's on a much smaller scale. That arena's 16,000 and change, whatever. So we'll have more tickets here, but it's going to be a harder ticket to get because here's what's going to happen, Kev. You've got 8 home games. We're not counting the preseason, but 8 home games. If you're a fan and you look at your team's schedule and you see, they got a road game in Vegas against the Raiders. Let's do a road trip. That's the one you're going to want to go to. Right. And they'll pay whatever they got to pay to get that ticket because if you go to Vegas, you're going to see a brand new stadium. It's 2 vacations in one. You get the football experience. You get the gambling experience. Who doesn't love coming to Vegas? I mean, this is the ultimate guys trip. Look at the slogan. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I mean, the person that, picked that one, although I hear rumblings that they're about to change their marketing campaign. They're going to have a new slogan, but that one was one of the best of all time. And, they used it. It's run its course. The guy that before that tried to make Vegas a family destination, I don't know. He might be buried with Jimmy Hoffa somewhere now because that didn't work out well. But, it's exciting times, and we've got, I know you're going to ask me about a new casino on the horizon, and it's going to be a game changer.
Absolutely, man. Great segue into that. Let's talk about the new Circa Hotel and Sportsbook. So I did a little research myself. I looked at some of the pictures, and I saw this pool with this mega screen. I mean, the screen looked like something hanging out in Jerry's World or something. Yep. And that just got me excited right there. Sitting out in the pool, watching the games, got your bets going on. You got your app. You don't have to feel like you're, in a stuffy place standing in a sports book waiting in line. That's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the new Circa.
Yeah, Circa is going to open this December. Word has it it's going to be somewhere around the rodeo. I don't know if they're going to get it open in time for the rodeo. The projections were a little bit later in December, which they're going to miss that's another big tourist attraction is when the rodeo comes to Vegas for 11 days every year. A lot of money comes to town with those cowboys, and they like to play poker, by the way, too. So I encourage them to come, and we like them. Open arms. But Circa, Derek Stevens is the ultimate casino owner. This is a guy that when you want, if you're going to go in and gamble money at an establishment, you want to do it where there's a face to that casino. It's not a big corporation where, it's MGM. What's the face of MGM? A lion? Okay, it's not, you can't put somebody to it. There's a few properties here in Vegas that are still old school. South Point. I know, Chris Andrews runs a sports book there. Jimmy Vaccaro's there. You talk about staples on, the Strip. They cater to locals. They cater to the tourists. But you can associate a face with them, whether it's the sports book and Chris or Jimmy, or the owner of the casino, Michael Gahn, has been a name that's been all around Vegas for, decades, going back to his dad was, one of the, first here in Vegas. But what Derek Stevens has brought in to the downtown scene is he's obviously, he's millionaire, billionaire, whatever classification you want to put him in, but he's on the floor walking around his casino all the time. He's at the end of his bar. There's in the D, which is the casino. He's got a couple properties right now, the D and the Golden Gate, and then the soon to open up Circa, but the D is his premier property right now. and you can see him walking around the D, the long bar at the D. He's there hanging out, watching games with patrons, and drinking elbow to elbow with guys. I mean, he's not like some big stuffed shirt. And what's fun about him is if you're going to lose money to somebody, you want to lose it to another degenerate, okay? And I don't want to call Derek Stevens a degenerate, but he bets like we do. He bets sports. Now, obviously, he can't bet at his own casino, so he just walks, down a couple blocks and goes to visit Tony Miller at the Golden Nugget or uses his app at South Point and so forth. But this is a guy that every year on March Madness, he'll come into VEASAN, and he's betting $10,000 on all of the first-round games. And he'll make his picks live on the show and stuff. That's the kind of guy you want to gamble at his casino. And the sports book they're building there, Kiev, is going to be the biggest sports book in the world. And it's going to be 2 stories. The screens are amazing. The seating's amazing. Non-smoking. It is going to change the landscape in Las Vegas of sports books because Circa is their own book. They're not, tied in. They're not, bought by William Hill or, CG or something. A lot of other casinos don't run their own sports book. They lease it to somebody. Circa is their own. They make their own numbers. And those that didn't know it, they were the first to bring out numbers all football season here in Vegas. For them to take the stand and let people bet into those numbers, granted, the opening numbers had limits on them, but they were decent limits, and they let the sharps massage the numbers and get them to where they were. So kudos to them to being the first to the table, where other people wait and see where the market settles and then brings their numbers out and, minimizes their risk. I like what Circa's doing, and they're going to really up everybody else's game because they're going to have to match what they're doing.
Wow. Well, props to Derek Stevens there. Yeah, I knew those lines were coming out there, but this guy sounds like a marketing genius. He's kind of bringing what everybody wants. It's exciting for that, What a way to kind of turn on everyone and accept some sharp money, even $1,000 limits coming up right away, right off the bat with some of these openers. Huge credit to him, right? That's fantastic. And that kind of leads me into this other question. Have you noticed since the apps have been out, less people congregating inside the sports books, buying their $7 beers and things like that? And if that's true, what's going to keep people coming into these lavish sports books that's now being created like at the Circa?
Okay, where the difference is, Kiev, is you're always going to have the tourists want that experience, okay? Because they don't have that experience at home. So they want to be into the sports books. And you talk about March Madness. One of the changing things is the landscape on the Las Vegas Strip, and it's something that bothers me a bit. But, it's supply and demand, and if somebody's going to pay it, then they're going to do it. And now sports books for these bigger events, March Madness, Super Bowl, playoffs, things of that nature, an NFL Sunday, they're charging for seats in a sports book. Mm-hmm. That's something that 10 years ago never happened. You might pay a few more dollars for a beer, but if you're wagering, you can get, drink tickets and stuff, especially a little tip for people coming to town. Bet some horses. You don't have to bet a lot, but you get more mileage on the drink tickets betting horses than you do betting sports. For how many dollars you got to wager to get something back. Put a bet down on a big favorite to show and get your drink tickets. That's the veteran move. You want to do something in a sports book, but you could pay on March Madness. Tickets for seats at Caesars last year were selling for $500.
I know that, and that's what bugs me a little bit about that. And I wonder what the Circa is going to do. Some people might just want to have parties with their apps and stay at home. I don't know. So that's that makes me curious.
For me, I'm still in the sports book during the week. I have my apps. I don't, as I alluded to, I do like to play poker. So there's a lot of times that, a lot of the sports books are located right next to the poker rooms, and like Caesars is absolutely right. If I get the right table, I'm looking right into the sports book, so I'm getting the same view from the poker table that somebody paid $500 for a seat. I'll sit at the poker table and make money and watch the games as well. So, I'll sit there and I'll make my in-game wagering, right from my seat. I won't get up. I'll use my apps. And, I've got 7 or 8 apps on my phone from all the different places here in town. So you can line shop and with the props, and we'll get the props later in the show. You want to shop around for the props because you can see drastic differences on player props where not only a difference on, one guy might have it, rushing yards at 80 and the other book has it at 74. Well, that's a big difference. 6 yards doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a difference. But you also see big differences in the juice on those. Where one place might be 110, the other place might be dealing 140. You got to shop around town and find the best values, and the best way to do it, man, is just look on your screen on your computer and then look at the individual apps and make the wagers.
Yeah, I can just see you at the poker table busting out your phone right in the middle of something.
Yeah, that's it. I say, hey, guys, I got pocket aces, but just hold on a second. I got to get this in-game wager in. Yeah, it's always fun.
Whenever Marco's reaching out his phone, he's bluffing, guys, all right? So
I'll tell you a fast story, poker story. I was at Venetian 2 weeks ago, and there was a kid that recognized me. He kept looking at me, but I don't know if he was, scared to say something or whatever. And I had just ordered food, and it finally got to the table, which, little tip, if you're playing poker in Vegas, the best table-side food at a poker table in Vegas is the Venetian. The food is amazing that they bring the food from. And I'm sitting there, eating and, playing. And so, I'm look at my cards real quick and, pitch them in, go back to eating and this and that. Well, I do pick up pocket aces, okay? And, and end up with this kid heads up. And he had been playing straightforward the whole night. And we get to the turn, and there's 2 cards out there on the flop to a straight and to a flush. The turn brings the flush in. And I bet my aces to try, there's 3 spades out there already. I don't want a 4th one to land because I don't have the ace of spades in my hand. So, I got to, try to protect my hand. So I put a decent-sized bet in, and the kid re-raises me. And I hadn't seen him make that move all night. So I took a minute, and I folded my hand, and I told him, I said, I'm laying down a monster. I just want you to know that. But I said, you haven't gotten out of line all night. And then that's when he found his way to break the ice and call me out. And he showed me his hand. Yeah, I folded. He showed me the hand. He had the flush, and he had already hit the straight, but it wasn't the straight flush. But he hit the flush and still had a redraw to the straight flush. So he had me in a bad spot there. I ended up losing. I lost the hand, but I lost a lot less than I could have. If it was me, I would have just flatted my bet there and let me hang myself on the river. But he says, hey, I watch your show all the time. I love it. I really appreciate everything, blah, 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 and everything going on. And so I said, hey, thanks for showing me your hand. I said, I'm going to give you a tip, son. I said, I give you a lot of tips on bet on it, but here's a tip for you at the poker table. When a fat guy is eating at the table, if he stops eating, he's got pocket aces.
That's a great tip right there. He stops eating, he has pocket aces. Oh, so, man, that is cool.
If you're playing with me and you see me eating and I stop, fold.
That's Marco's tell. Well, that's awesome. No, that's a great story, and it's great to be known like that, Marco. Fantastic. That's cool. I'll remember that too at the Venetian there. I don't play a ton of poker like I used to, but once in a while I got some time to kill if the wife's at a show or something, right? So might have to visit that place. Well, let's move.
Let me know when you're at the table. I'd love to play with you.
Okay, Marco. Well, I'll do that just for fun. Let's. You hit it on the ponies a little bit. You know, the prep races. You are our Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont man. No other person I respect more when it comes to the horses, Marco. Why don't we just talk about that a little bit? Is there any horses you're looking at right now, kind of coming into these prep races?
Starts at for me is we start getting gun ho the week after Super Bowl. We hit February, and that's where the 3-year-old prep races will all start coming in. And that's where I get going. Now, I can tell you there's a horse that's gotten a lot of buzz in the last week. 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 Saturdays ago or Sunday, at Santa Anita, Bob Baffert brought out a 3-year-old, and there was a lot of buzz regarding this horse. He got bet down pretty good, and he won easily. Nadell was the horse, the name of the horse. So I want to see what he does coming back off of that race. You know, everybody gets excited when these horses, you know, the first race out of the box for the 3-year-old season, and if they put up a impressive win and they're out of the big barn like Baffert's, you know, sometimes people get a little bit too carried away. So we want to see what he does in the next one, but I will be watching all of the prep races over the next 2 months leading us into the big Triple Crown races, and we'll be talking to you, I'm sure, on all of those races.
Oh, yeah, the horse named Adele?
Yes.
All right. Cool.
Nadel.
Okay.
And that's the early buzz horse of Baffert's.
All right. Baffert's always got the buzz horses going on, too. So that's...
Well, you know, the thing is, and I love Bob Baffert as a trainer, don't get me wrong, and he always seems to end up with, you know, a horse on the Triple Crown trail, but what people don't realize is he starts the year with, you know, 60 or 70 candidates. I mean, he's got... Every year when he goes to the yearling sales, he starts with that many horses. And, you know, it's that hard to get a horse to the Triple Crown, you know, to end up with, you know, getting one there or two of there is a feat. But, you know, a lot of guys, when they end up getting there, they might have had a stable of only, you know, 10 horses. Now, the big guys, you know, the Chad Browns, the Todd Pletchers and Bob Bafferts, you know, obviously they've got, you know, their success gets them a ton of horses. There's no question. But it's easier to have more bullets to fire when you've got a bigger stable.
Absolutely. So, yeah, there's going to be a ton of stuff going on. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, obviously. I'm guessing there's probably some odds already for Adele if it's such a buzz horse. I'm sure somebody threw something up there.
What they end up doing is they'll have 3 sets of Kentucky Derby futures. The first one came out like right before the Breeders' Cup races, and they take them off the board before the Breeders' Cup. Then they'll have the early one that comes out at the first of the year, and after this first set of prep races, there'll be a second Kentucky Derby future book, and before that last, you know, that one in March there where you get the last week of March and first week of April where you get the Wood Memorial, the Florida Derby, all of those, all in, you know, a 2-week period. That'll be right before those races will be the final future book for the Derby and that, and you get in there and you take your swings. And, you know, I've done it a few times, taking some horses that, you know, you might get at a better price before the buzz, you know, bets them down. But, you know, you're tying your money up for, you know, a few months, but it's, you know, it's worth it if you can get a, you know, a bigger price. That year that we hit the big trifecta in the Kentucky Derby a couple of years ago, Looking at Lucky was the horse that we were keying on. He didn't win the race. He finished second. And we hit $9,000 that day, an $8,000 try, $300 exact and everything. You know, we cleaned up, but he ran second. If he gets up and wins the race, you know, I'm on the beach reading the racing form somewhere, because it would have been just, you know, total, you know, blow up the tote board, plus the fact that I had bet him at 40-1 in the future book.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it would have, you know, when he was coming up the inside, you know, Marco couldn't talk the next day. Let me tell you that. I was screaming. Not that it was going to make him go any faster. Although if I might have been at Churchill that day. I might have scared him to scoot up there a little quicker, but yeah, we were going nuts. We were at the South Point for that one, and it was a good day.
You would have tried to hit him with a spitball or something, I think. From
we would have got him there.
I bet, man. Well, that's fantastic. Let's talk about the big game here coming up on Sunday, Super Bowl Live. L-I-V, baby. And what a awesome matchup, Marco. We got the San Francisco 49ers have been a force with their power offense and their fantastic defense this year against the finesse of the Kansas City Chiefs, my man. You know, obviously you've talked about this for the last 2 weeks. I've talked a ton about it, but just have to make sure that our listeners know, is there anything on the side or the totals that you have a feeling on?
Yeah, I'll give you a play on both. I like the total better than the game. But, you know, when people look at this game, you know, the Super Bowl is going to be the most public bet game. We know that. You know, there's going to be so many people here that might not have bet a football game all year, but they're going to bet Sunday because they want to be part of an event. It's the same thing when the Kentucky Derby rolls in. People will bet horses for one day, you know, and it inflates the pools and everything else. But what we've got here, sharps generally like defense over offense, and I have been a big proponent over the years. If I get the better defense and I'm getting points, that's a formula for success, okay? Long term, you do that blindly, you're going to win more games than you lose. This game, however, is a little bit different because we're not really dealing with a point spread. We're, you know, the numbers bouncing around 1.5. It's pick the winner, okay? The team that we've had, I think, one Super Bowl that's been decided by 1 point, okay? So the point spread's not going to be a factor here. I look at this game, and we know what the San Francisco defense has done. They had that little stretch towards the end of the season where they were giving up a ton of points and yards, but they were banged up bad. And they're back to full strength, and they've dominated the last two opponents. The thing about the last two opponents is it was the Minnesota Vikings, and they were able to shut down the running game of Dalvin Cook, which I was big on for San Francisco in that game. That was my biggest play of the playoffs. And easy win because they took the running game away, and Minnesota lives and dies by that running game. Kirk Cousins isn't carrying a team by himself. He needs the running game to work to make his stuff work and make everything go better. When they took the running game away and they could pin their ears and come after Kirk Cousins, game over, and that's what happened there.
Right.
Last week, or in the championship game 2 weeks ago against Green Bay, basically the same thing. Green Bay was a one-dimensional offense. They had to throw the football. Aaron Rodgers had no time. The offensive line could not contain that front from the 49ers, and he was running around for his life, couldn't get any continuity going, and he found themselves, you know, down big early in that game. And once they're down, they totally got abandoned the running game, and Green Bay was sitting duck and got dominated. So what we have is two very good-looking wins by San Francisco. On the flip side, we look at Kansas City. Yes, that offense has been amazing, and they can score, you know, in a hurry. But the public looks and saw San Francisco wire to wire in both games, and they look Kansas City down 24-0 in the first game, down 10-0 in the second game, and had to rally. And those were against, you know, two mediocre defenses. Now what's going to happen when they're facing a good defense? So that's why I think we saw the early money come in to San Francisco. And there was a time when the line first came out that people were speculating that the line was going to cross and that San Francisco would end up being, you know, at worst a pick or a 1-point favorite. But that didn't happen. Is we got a little bit later, we're starting to see some money come in on Kansas City. There's been some big bets here in town on both sides, but they did get a couple large wagers on Kansas City 2 days ago, and then it opened the door for a couple casinos that were willing to take Mattress Mac's money. If you're not familiar with Mattress Mac, you've been living under a mattress for the last year because he's the guy that made all the big wagers on the Houston Astros in the World Series to cover his promotion at his mattress shop in Houston. But he's come to town, and he's betting the 49ers on the money line. and he was shopping around. He wanted it plus $1.20, and the books that he went to turned him down. Well, then after a couple of the big bets showed up on Kansas City, MGM reached out and said, hey, yeah, we'll give you 120, and he got $1 million down on San Francisco at plus 120. So the books will be okay in this game. I think they're going to get a lot of two-sided action in this game. Where they're going to live or die is going to be on the props. Now, for me, going back to the game, what I see here is Kansas City. This is a team that offensively, they don't have to rely on their running game, okay? So this 49er defense that was so dominating the last 2 weeks are not going to suffocate the Chiefs the way they did Minnesota and Green Bay. Kansas City will be able to move the football. And, yes, the defense is good. So what that means is it's going to just take Kansas City longer to move down the field. They're not going to have the big chunk plays that they have, but they'll have plays that are successful, and they'll keep moving themselves down the field. The 49ers, we know what they want to do, okay? Will that materialize is going to depend on how the game flow goes. Now, Andy Reid's had 2 weeks to prepare a game plan to stop the running game, okay? They're going to make Jimmy Garoppolo have to throw the football in this game. They took Derrick Henry out of the game for Tennessee. And if they can slow down Derrick Henry the way he had been running, I think they're going to be able to slow down the 49er offense as well. And that's going to force the ball into the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo. And so when we get to our props, I'll touch on that a little bit more. But for the game, I like Kansas City. I've got Kansas City winning 28-20. Now, if you did the quick math, 28-20, that's way below the 55 or 54.5 that we're looking at around town on the total. And that's what I really liked in this game. This total is way too high, okay? If you look at, we know what the San Francisco defense is, but everybody says, well, Kansas City can't stop anybody. First 10 games of the season, Kansas City was the 25th ranked defense in all of football. Horrible, agree. Over the last 7 games, I should say from Week 11 on, counting the 2 playoff games, from Week 11 on, Kansas City is the 9th-ranked defense in the NFL. They have played much, much better. And the last 8 games, they've held 5 of the 8 opponents to 17 points or less. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but they gave up 31 to Houston in the first playoff game, and they gave up 24 to Tennessee. They did. But let's stop and go back to those 2 games. The 31 they gave up to Houston, 17 of them were in the first quarter off of miscues, not the defense. It was off of a kick return. It was off of a muffed punt and set them up for quick scores. So after you take away those 17 points over the rest of the game, that defense held Houston to 14 points.
Right.
Go to the Tennessee game where they put Derrick Henry in check. They gave up 10 quick points in that game, and then only 14 the rest of the way. The final 7 came under the 5-minute mark when the game was decided, and they were in prevent defense, giving up yards for clock. It was an 18-point lead at the time, and they gave up that last 7. So for me, I'm looking at it, the offense legitimately, in true game time, without the miscues and without the prevent defense, they gave up 14 points to Houston and 17 points to Tennessee.
Right, in total.
And that's what I'm looking at, and I'll go on with that and say that San Francisco, if they struggle running the football and fall behind by 2 scores, they're going to have to totally abandon the running game and go to throwing the game. Now, everybody's going to say, well, that's no problem because look what they did in the Tennessee game, or not the Tennessee game, the New Orleans game, where they had the shootout with Drew Brees. Yeah, but that's when their defense was all banged up. They gave up a lot of points, and they were able to score. The Saints' defense was never good all year, okay? So let's not get too excited there. And how can you be assured that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to flip it on like a light switch, when they've totally put him on ice the last 2 weeks. And I think that is the one thing that, as far as what got me swayed to the Kansas City side in the end of the grand scheme of things, is you shut down Jimmy Garoppolo in the last 2 playoff games. You took the ball out of his hand. What's that do for his confidence level if you need him in this game? I think they should have used more of him in those 2 games. I realize they didn't need it, but you're going to face a team somewhere that you're going to need to score points. And that was this week. Now, granted, they scored a ton of points, enough points against Minnesota and enough against Green Bay that it wasn't a problem, but I just don't see them moving the ball as well as they did, and they are definitely going to have to score some points. So that's what landed me on Kansas City for the game. For the total, this total was too high, and really what I think you're going to see with the total is when it opened at 51.5 and 52, as soon as the championship games ended, you saw it immediately bet up to the 54. And what that was, in my opinion, Kiev, is all of the sharps in town, whether they liked the over or they liked the under, knew that that was going to be the lowest number they were ever going to see on the total in the Super Bowl. It was only going to go one direction. Right. And they grabbed the over to get that number, and then everybody sees that quick move. Then you get the steam chasers jumping on board as well. Then you get the public that comes to town tonight and tomorrow and Saturday. They're not betting the under. I'm going to tell you that right now. The public doesn't want to fly to Vegas to sit and root for no scoring. That's not happening.
Right.
They're going to be betting the over, and this thing is going to creep up a little bit more, and then you're going to see late Saturday and Sunday morning, you're going to see an influx of under money. I'm trying to get 55.5. That's where I haven't made my under bet yet, but I'm trying. It's a cat and mouse game between me and the rest of the sharps as to when we take the buyback, because everybody's going to want to do the same thing. And even if the sharps that got it at 51.5 and 52 just get it at 55, they got a 3-point middle.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Exactly.
They've got it. They don't care. But if they truly do like the under, like I do, then they're going to bet the under for more than they bet their over wager, and so that their position on the game is going to be the under. But if it happens to fall 53 or 54, 55, if they get to 55.5, they're going to win both bets. And then that's just a windfall for them.
Exactly. They try to set up a middle. That's what the pros do, is obviously set it up. They saw 51. It didn't matter if it was going to be 53 opening, 51. It's going to move 3 or 4 points, so they set themselves up perfectly for a middle. When I got it, when I took a look at it, it already happened. It happened pretty quick. It was already up to 53 or something when I took a look at it, and I didn't want to bet that over because I was thinking maybe some under money might come in first, and then the public's going to come back. It didn't happen like that. Everybody's waiting on it under, Marco, and that's what I was wondering. You say Saturday night, Sunday morning. It's always nice to get in before the sharp money comes in on the under, right? And
but it's that guessing game because it's like a stock. When do you sell it? You want to wait for that highest point, but yet you don't want it to come back down and you gave up money. So it's a fine line. I'll be happy at 55.5.
There you go. And, my handicap was similar to yours. I think through my algorithm, without adding pace to the game, I think I was around 49 with a very slight edge to Kansas City. And I think just Kansas City with the quarterback, like you said, is the perfect example. I mean, if either team's going to be down 8 points from the third to the fourth quarter, who are you going to trust? I mean, there's your edge right there. It's Mahomes. And the only thing that people... I guess the only thing that would scare me if I'm a Kansas City bettor, let's just say Kyle Shanahan has all this trust in Garoppolo and doesn't run the ball in the first couple drives. He throws the ball and Garoppolo's just great. Kittle's wide open. Kansas City's playing the run. Well, now then Kansas City's going to be down, which probably a lot of Kansas City people expect, and you wonder if they soften up on the run trying to guard the pass that just beat them, and if it kind of spirals. Maybe that's another reason why this game is pick'em, Marco, because Kyle Shanahan is pretty smart, and this is what happens. But ultimately, I think Kansas City wins the game at the end.
They do, and you just went ahead and gave me a great segue into some of my props.
Well, then let's get into some of these props, my man. And, what's funny, what I tell people that like the Niners is I don't know why you wouldn't just bet Jimmy Garoppolo at plus 300 for MVP and then half of that throw it on Mostert for MVP at plus 600. I don't see a ton of other scenarios where it would be a different MVP than him. You're essentially getting plus 450 on the 49ers at that pack, and I guess that would be the first prop I would throw out. Now, I'm not playing it because I like Kansas City, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. The Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely the saver bet. If you want to hedge your Kansas City wager, well, if Kansas City loses, the quarterback's always going to be the favorite for the MVP, okay? Unless he has a game like they had the last 2 weeks. But I don't see that scenario. I see a scenario where he's going to have to score, and that would make Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's why my first two prop bets to you are Jimmy Garoppolo over 239 yards passing, and Jimmy Garoppolo over 19.5 completions. And the reason for that is I do believe that at some point they're going to be behind in this game, and they are going to be throwing the football. I also believe that Kyle Shanahan, as you said, also knows that Andy Reid's had 2 weeks to prepare, and they're going to be, jamming the line, daring them to throw the football. Well, I'm probably going to come out with, a couple running plays, start things out the way it is, but there's going to be somewhere early in this game where I'm going to take a shot downfield. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be off one of those play-action passes, maybe right after a first down or the first play of the game. Who knows? Generally speaking, it's not the first play of the game because you like to get your quarterback a high percentage pass play on that first pass play. But at some point, he's going to take a shot. And if they do catch KC napping, you could have a 60, 70-yard, take it to the house type play. That gives you a nice leg up on, getting the passing yards. If they are stacking the line against the run, the way to slow down a rush defense is those quick hitting passes. Either hit the guy in the slot quick, do those little bubble screens, things like that, where they're high percentage plays and they're dink and dunks, but they add up. It's like an extended running play, and you may see more of those in this game, and that'll get us to the 19.5. They're not going to be the pass plays. If Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw the football, he's not going to be a gunslinger where he's throwing everything 40 yards downfield. It's going to be those underneath, high percentage passes and matriculate their way down the field, and that makes 7 and 8 play drives, get you 3 and 4 completions at a time, and they add up, and that's why those two wagers are my first two prop bets. Jimmy Garoppolo over completions, over total yards. Now, with that said, let's go to the guy that you just talked about, Raheem Mostert. This is the guy that everybody's overreacting to. He had the game of his life against Green Bay.
Right.
Now, a couple of things to remember. They were banged up at running back, okay? He got all the carries. Because they had a big lead and because Kansas City or Green Bay couldn't stop the run, they just kept feeding him the football, and at the end of the day, he had 220 yards. This thing opened up at 80 rushing yards. I missed the 80, got it on its way down. I got it at 77.5. It's 74.5 right now. It's going to go back up when the public gets here because the public sees that number and see that he had 220 yards in the San Francisco win over Green Bay. They're going to bet that over. So if you miss the good number, there'll be a number coming back. I think Sunday morning, you'll be able to shop around town and find this back around the 77.5, 78, and I like it under. Several reasons. I don't think they're going to have the success running this week that they did. And remember, all season long, this was a running back by committee. They used 3 different running backs all year. One of the reasons he got all of those carries is because Coleman got hurt. If Coleman's able to go in this game, that splits some of his rushes, and he's not going to have as many attempts. So that's one thing that takes away from his total. The other thing that will take away from his total is, as I said, if they're behind, they're not going to be running the football as much, taking more carries away from him. So you can look at taking him under the rushing yards. I don't have the number in front of me, but you could also look at it under on his number of carries. That would be limited as well. But I like the under the yardage better, and that's why I went with that one. Speaking of rushing yards, I do have one that I'm not taking the under. We're going over, and it's on Patrick Mahomes. Over 32.5 rushing yards. This is one where if you look at the 49er defense, as good as they've been all year, there's been 5 quarterbacks they faced that are very mobile quarterbacks and will run with the football like Mahomes will. Kyler Murray, Arizona. You remember both games they had.
Oh, yeah.
First meeting, he rushed 5 times for 34 yards. Second meeting, 8 times for 67 yards. Russell Wilson, first time, 6 rushes, 53 yards. Second meeting, which was that final game of the season, regular season, 8 rushes for 29 yards. Now, if you remember in that game, Seattle was totally banged up. Offensive line problems, no running backs. They had to dust off the beast out of retirement to have somebody to carry the football. So it wasn't the same effect of having Russell Wilson running the football in that game. And then the other quarterback that they faced, and it's not really fair to put him on this list because he runs the football so many more times than the normal quarterback, but Lamar Jackson had over 100 yards against them. He rushed 16 times for 101 yards. So mobile quarterbacks do present problems for the 49er defense. I'm looking at over 32.5 rushing yards. I'm going to take Mahomes there. I think he gets that. This is a spot where if they get things going and they send if Tyreek Hill goes downfield, take Sherman with him downfield, and you've got Kelsey going over the middle, clearing that out, and those defenders are in zone or worse, go into man-to-man, and in man-to-man you turn your back to the quarterback, he takes off. There's going to be some yardage there for him to get a first down, keep a drive moving, or one big play and you're almost there. So right, I like Patrick Mahomes over the 32.5 rushing yards.
Marco, you took the words out of my mouth. The Niners play zone 77% of the time. A lot of cover 3. The first prop I played was Patrick Mahomes over 30.5 rushing yards. Yeah. So that was one of my sharper ones as well. And I made a bunch of prop plays. I'm usually up to about 15 or 20. I do bet some unders towards the end of it. Obviously,
Sunday you were going to be picking off all the inflated.
Exactly.
Because the public. This is the thing. If your card consists of all overs on your player props and all yeses on yes/no questions, you're going to have a very bad day, usually.
Yes, absolutely. And so you wait on those to be, just like you said, with Mostert being pushed up. That's a huge thing. The question is about Coleman, is he going to play? His shoulder looked pretty bad, but that's why Mostert's inflated right now. I think the kid's going to take a shot in his shoulder, a cortisone, and he's going to play. I think he's going to
Are you going to miss the Super Bowl? And even if he's not effective, if they give him a go and he tries, 3 or 4 plays, that's 3 or 4 carries he took away.
Marco, I would play with one leg. if I could play in the Super Bowl, my man. But no, I love the plays. And Jimmy Garoppolo, another sharper play that I want to give out, and it is the one I took for his second half passing yards. I have second half passing yards greater than the first, and I got it at minus 130. That's one that I'm on, because I think he's going to be throwing it in the second half no matter what. It kind of comes into the teams feeling each other out a little bit in the first. They're not going to take too many chances. Well, there's a good chance Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be behind at some point and is going to have to throw the ball, right? So, that's one of mine as well. I also have one little thing that I wanted to give out to everybody here about the Kansas City defense. I like Mostert to catch the ball. I think Coleman's going to play running back, but I think that Shanahan might throw the ball to Mostert, and the reason is because they're going to want to get him in space when they realize the running game isn't exactly going up to Green Bay Packers standards, Right. The Kansas City Chiefs are third worst in receptions to running back this year at 100, and they are worst in receiving yards to a running back at 950. 950. Shanahan, he's a stat man. He's going to be looking at that. He's going to be like, I'm going to get my 4.3 speed Mostert in space. I like him over 1.5 catches, and I got that at minus 125, and I like him over 13.5 receiving yards. I do not like the rushing total. So, any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. That would be the way, to use him in light of not having the success with the running game. Makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you this, his first rush over 3.5 yards, that first rush prop usually doesn't work, but if Coleman's playing, Mostert's first rush might not come till later. And that's when he might get a bigger break than 3.5 yards. So I kind of like that as well. That was that.
The only thing is, even if Coleman goes after the game that Mostert had against Green Bay, you have to put him in to start it. Even though if Coleman's a go, I think I would owe it to start him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's kind of true too. And to be honest with you, I saw Mostert last year before I think he broke his arm. I was like, wow, that kid looks good. Then he broke his arm like that same game. I was like, holy cow. And then I'm like looking at him this year. I'm like, why are they not using him more? And then they started using him more. And I was like, well, duh. I mean, what did you see last year, So, absolutely. I took another prop, too. Patrick Mahomes leads the Chiefs in rushing yards. I had that at plus 250, and I made that one of my larger props as well, because I think that if you look what the Niners did when they played against Alvin Kamara, they shut him down. Did you see what they did to Delvin Cook? What do you have, 19 yards on 8 carries or something?
Right.
The Vikings rushing offense? There's a very good chance with those fast blitzing linebackers that Mahomes going to roll right out under Bosa when he gets pushed out into the flat area. He's just going to roll right out and have to run the ball. Mahomes doesn't like throwing picks. He's going to run that ball, especially in a game like this. So I think at plus 250.
And they may go with some RPOs in this game, more so than they have in the past.
100%. Absolutely. They'll be reading the defensive end, and he'll be taking off to the left or right, depending on what the strong side of the field is. So absolutely agree with that. Couple stupid ones. I bet that Tom Brady's going to be mentioned during the Super Bowl. And I got minus 220, and it's up to minus 300 in one book. And I thought I saw it minus 400 in another book. How can Joe Buck and Troy Aikman stop themselves from making a comparison to Tom Brady? That's the way I look at this one, Marco. So
that's a good one. These are just silly, the silly type props that everybody gets going on. Now, remember that as far as Las Vegas goes for Nevada, for any of the props that they put up, like you're not going to bet the over-under on the national anthem. You can bet the coin toss, okay, but you can't bet the time on the national anthem or what color the Gatorade's going to be for the at the end of the game when the coach gets doused. All of that, because it has to be something that is in a box score. If it's not in a box score, it can't be a prop.
It can't be. Where's that at? Anywhere?
Vegas. Nevada Gaming Commission, that's the rules on props. It can't be anything that's left to speculation or interpretation. It has to be in a box score.
Is that new?
Is that new? And the reason for that is, okay, I'll give you two big examples where the offshore sports books had a problem, okay, and they had to make a decision, and not to, some of them not to, and alienate their client base because it wasn't that big of a decision, did the PR move and paid both. But the two examples most recently were the 1 year the Gatorade. Was it green or was it yellow? There was when it, they look the same on TV. Which was it? Okay, so now that's the same. If you look offshore and stuff, they have it as the same.
They have limes, and I actually, to be honest with you, on the offshore book, I did take very small on that just because it's fun. Negative EV props, I call them. It's those props that aren't sharp, and you shouldn't judge your bankroll on that. Just your fun Super Bowl bets, like people buying Powerball tickets. It's the same thing. I have a couple of those just because they are fun. Not everybody.
And that was the big one, the Gatorade.
Yeah, lime / green / yellow. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other one was they always have the offshore places has the prop. Whoever the Super Bowl performer is at halftime, what will the first song be? And they'll list, 4 or 5 of their most popular songs, and you can bet on which one is good. Are they going to open the show with? Well, people go back and they look at their concert footage and look at set list and everything. And I know, a few years ago, a guy I did a podcast with, he was really big on these halftime props. And Katy Perry, what was her first song going to be? Well, he just, he hammered, the song Roar, because she opens every concert with it, okay? It's an upbeat song. It gets the crowd rocking. It's just the natural. And nailed it. Well, Coldplay, whenever they did the Super Bowl, and I'm blanking on the name of the song, but that was the sharp play. That's the song they're going to open with. That's the song they open concerts with. It's one of those, upbeat songs that gets everybody up and dancing, and you get that vibe going. Well, they came out, they played a couple licks of the song, and everybody thought it was that song. They never sang a word. They just hit a couple opening riffs and then went into a different song.
Ooh, there you go. The judgmental stuff. Yep.
Okay, so everybody's saying, no, they opened, they played, that was, whatever song that was, and, but no, they didn't sing it. It was this one. Well, the offshore sportsbooks had to make a decision. And they're in a no-win situation because if they make the decision, whoever has the losing ticket of their decision, they're going to feel they got screwed.
Yeah, exactly, and that's probably And I think the last national anthem she started and stopped and started again or something. That affected it, and I think it was even last year. So
that's why it's not Nevada Gaming Commission. They don't want to have anything that's judgmental. It's got to be something that's decided in a box score, and the box score is the final word.
And this is new probably since a year ago, I would guess, right? Because
Vegas has been that way all along. They won't take those funny props. The only fun one you can do is at the beginning of the game, the coin flip, because there is it's part of the game. It's the first play of the game. They flip the coin, heads or tails. You either take the ball or you defer, whatever. It's there. It's clear cut.
Right.
They take that in the books, and let me go off on a tangent for that. If you're betting the coin flip, call me, okay? All right. I want your action.
unless you're getting plus 100, call Marco immediately.
Yeah. Because your negative EV on a 50-50 proposition. Now, a lot of the books around town have grown a heart, and that's only because one of them did it first and it started forcing the other people to do it. For the longest while, that was still up at 110, okay? Then they started at 105. At minus 105, you're still an idiot for betting the coin flip, all right?
I agree. I agree.
But Now they're down to 102 at most of the books here in town, but you're still giving the books an edge for something that is pure 50-50 proposition. And then people will just say, well, Marco, anytime you bet a game, it's a 50-50 proposition. No, it's not, okay? I'm using my handicapping knowledge to try to create something that gives me a better than a 50% win ratio. Unless I'm betting baseball money lines and I'm betting underdogs, then I don't need to hit 50% to turn a profit, okay? But you're talking about a 50% proposition. We sit here, and if you flip a coin 20,000 times, it's supposed to come up, around 10,000 and 10,000, okay? It's supposed to do that. There'll be stretches during there that you might have 7 or 8, 9, 10 in a row heads, or tails, but it's going to balance itself out. I can tell you what doesn't balance itself out, and Chris Andrews says this every year. He goes, I don't know who we're going to need for the game. I don't know who we're going to need for the total. All I do know is we're going to need tails for the coin flip because everybody bets heads.
That's hilarious, And if you are flipping a coin 20,000 times to test this whole theory out, don't see Marco. Go to a hospital or something and go get yourself checked. That's an important thing. But the Gatorade prop's fun. And what's funny is that whenever I went to Vegas for Super Bowl bets, I always had my stuff done for a prop stuff before I even did that. So I always go offshore for that. I think the lime green yellow, if you're going to do this one, is probably the best with the clear, because there's people that don't want Gatorade in those barrels and they're just going to pick up a barrel. They're not going to know there's water in tons of them. So I think so. And everyone's all the public's like, it's going to be red because of the Chiefs and Reds, the 49ers. That's the stupidest thing in the world. Imagine losing the Super Bowl and telling your team that you cared about the fucking Gatorade watercolor more than actually winning the goddamn game. Imagine being in that locker room. No thanks to me. So that's the way I look at it. But I think a couple negative EV props that I like. And I made and these are super small, obviously, change because it's not something you're going to judge on your bankroll. I think that the first touchdown could be a George Kittle or Travis Kelce, just because of the lack of size of these wide receivers in the red zone. They're gonna stack the box a little bit. You have two of the best tight ends in the game. I think
the tight ends are going to be huge in both teams are in the game plans.
Yeah, plus 1,000 on Kittle and plus 800 on Kelce, right? Maybe a half unit on each one of them or whatever. It's just have some fun, and that's kind of like your big ticket type thing. It's going to be over right away, and you'll probably lose it. The running backs are always favored in this thing, and I made a couple other small ones too to members, but those are two that I really like for negative EV props. And so I just like the size of these guys for red zone targets. They don't have a Brandon Marshall or some 6'7", 6'5" type receivers. So it just kind of makes sense to me, Marco. What else? I think that's pretty much everything. I'm gonna. I think I gave out pretty much everything that I planned on giving out. Do you have any other props?
The only other prop I have, and this is one of the ones that pretty much every Super Bowl I do. And that is which half is going to have the more scoring. And it's an automatic for me to take the second half. And people say, well, yeah, because you get overtime as well. No, how many Super Bowls go to overtime, okay? It's not because of that. It's because these big games have a tendency to start out like a heavyweight fight. You're sparring and you're jabbing. You're not getting in there throwing haymakers right out of the gate. You want to get your guys settled with what they're doing and comfortable with the game plan, and you don't want to be that team that makes the first turnover. You want to give up a quick score. So that's why, tendency-wise, the second half is a higher scoring than the first half, because the game starts slow and pick up speed, and then obviously if you get one team to get separation, that other team's got to keep, trying to throw the football to get back in it. And unlike a regular season game, if you're down, you're down. Sometimes you give up. In the Super Bowl, you're going to still be trying. You're going to be going. You're down. You're going to go on fourth down.
Right.
All right. If you don't make it, well, that sets the other team up with decent field position. If you make it, it keeps the drive going, and, you get that score. So that's kind of what, if I have an automatic play every year in the Super Bowl, it's second half over first half.
100%. And I'll tell you right now, we actually went into detail on that. That's why I was shocked that the first half over and the second half over was the same on some sites. So I quickly hit the second half over because I knew it was mispriced. Probably be a first half under player, and I'm going to do that waiting game just like Marco. Hopefully I get in before a lot of that money comes in. So being nice and patient and kind of rubbing my hands together on that one, my man. Couple ones I'm going to fade. I have to fade this Mostert scores a TD thing, and I wanted to bet it. And I was going to bet it all the way up to minus 150, but now I'm seeing it at minus 250. And now minus 250 is telling me to hit the no button on Mostert scores a TD. So I'll be fading that one when more Mostert money comes in, and I might be fading the Damian Williams scores a TV. It's at minus 167 right now. I might be betting the no on that. I'm going to be sending that out to members as well. Well, we pounded the hell out of this thing, Marco. So let's get right into a little basketball with the few minutes that we have left, my man. And just a few points on some of these games. Saturday, no football, so Friday, always, it's actually kind of a light card, but I do have a game for Friday, VCU versus Rhode Island, minus 2, over under 138, probably the second and third, not sure which one is which in the Atlantic 10 Conference here. Did you look at this game?
Yeah, I leaned to Virginia Commonwealth in this one, and this is one of those ones where we got a revenge spot. They lost earlier to Rhode Island, and this is a team, Virginia Commonwealth, that has great home court. And over the last 2 seasons in conference play, only one loss at home, and that was to Rhode Island. So I think they're going to have this one circled. I'm going to take the revenging Road Dog in this one.
No, hey, man, I thought you were going to say you're going to bet the Rams in this game. So thank God. Terrible joke. Both teams named the Rams. So
you know what? I was snoozing on that one. I missed that. I should have. Yeah. Send it in.
I was like, I was waiting for you to say that. I served it up. Okay. Well, anyways, I don't know how you can't root for Rhode Island, though. I'm not sure what you're going to bet on, though, with a guy with the name of Fats Russell as their best player. Fats Russell. It sounds like one of those mobster names from back in the 1930s. Fats Russell. Fantastic name there. But either way, both these teams are very similar. What's funny about them is they both have a very fast pace of playing when it comes to time of possession. But they have great defenses, too, so it kind of goes either way. I was on the losing end of both of these games last year. I think I had the under. They scored 48 points in the first half, and I thought I had it locked, and the Foul City happened, and that's how much these teams hate each other and care about this game. The fact that they play so fast and their scores have been down, I kind of lean to the over, but I also lean to the Rams as well. The VCU I lean to. They're a tad bit taller. And they shoot a little bit better. They both play pretty close to equal defense. So it's just a lean right now. We can only project the line at Rhode Island minus 2, 138. If I can get a 3 or better, it's probably a play. So just wanted to throw that out there. Saturday, couple big games. Providence versus Butler. Butler's minus 10. The total in this game is 130. I'll start on this one. Providence, tough run in the Big East. They played the top teams over the last 2 weeks, and they've been losing. Nova, they fought them good. They fought them off good. They lost only by 4 points, but they're defensive oriented. They're terrible at shooting. Providence 314th in effective field goal, and Butler's not exactly great at shooting either lately. They've been in a slump, and they got out of it and beat Marquette in overtime. Then they went to the same type of team as Marquette, Georgetown, the fast pace, and then they beat Georgetown in Georgetown by a few points. But Butler still ranks a healthy 15 on KenPom. What I do like is I think each other is just going to try to stop each other from scoring, I did take the under in last game, and I lost it by a point because for some reason Providence started fouling them down 12 with like 3 minutes left, playing the press, fouling all over the place, and it kind of drove me nuts. But I don't care. I got to do the same thing again. I'm probably going to be playing the under at 130, and that would be a smaller play. I put a 1.5 star on it. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I want to see where the line comes out, and I'm hoping that we get single digits here. I know, power rating wise, we're probably looking at a 10 here, but if I can get this at around 8.5, I would be interested in Butler, and the reason for that is I want to use the phrase "lose the same game twice," and Providence just played their guts out against Villanova. And now, granted, they've had a full week to get over it, but you play your guts out. You almost beat Villanova on your home floor, and now you got to go on the road and play Butler. Butler struggled there. They had that 3-game mini losing streak, but they got back on track with the overtime win and then the hard-fought road win over Georgetown. So I think they've righted the ship. This is one of those ones where I could see Providence hanging around for 3/4 of the game and then Butler just putting it away at the foul line late in the game and getting the cover. So it's not one that'll probably make my card on Saturday, but I'm leaning Butler or pass.
All right, well, we'll have to see what happens on this. Hopefully some number chasers will knock that down a little bit for you as well. Great points on that, man. They're kind of done. Their Big East stuff is shot. They're probably starting to think about the Big East tournament maybe and just getting to that. So good call there. TCU versus Baylor. I got Baylor laying about 12 points over under at 126. We went on Baylor last night. They got oversteamed down from like 7 to 3.5. I'm like, I have to take this. I have to, And so do you have any thoughts on this game? When is Baylor going to be overpriced?
Okay, well, thanks for putting this one on the card. Let me get the tire tracks off me because I was on Iowa State last night. I stepped in front of Baylor, and this was a situational spot, I'll be honest with you. I thought them off of the Florida game. This was the spot where the number one team was ripe for a letdown. They went through that first week of being ranked number one. They had a scare earlier in the week. Then they came back and, bounced back with a good game and then took care of business against Florida. And, now it's the second week of the number one ranking and all of that.
Right.
And, didn't work out. But do I want to step in front of them again? No. Do I want to bet them? No, because they are going to be laying a premium now. You're not going to get the steam down number that you saw last night. People are going to start buying into Baylor for sure, and we've seen it this year. The team that gets the number one ranking, it's like they've got a game of hot potato. They just can't seem to hang on to it, and they find a way to lose, and the next team, next up for number one. So for me, I'll be passing this game, but the call here is TCU, which is really weird. When Jamie Dixon was at Pitt, it was all about defense. It's not all about defense with him down there at TCU right now, and I guess it's just a different, type of athlete that he's getting. And, Baylor, they're athletic. I mean, they play great defense, and, they can score. And, if TCU has, one of those spurts where Baylor goes on, a 10-2 run, you get a couple of those, and then all of a sudden the game's out of reach.
Right.
So that's my concerns there. But yes, thanks for reminding me about that.
Sorry about
all that money, all that steam money come in last night. Some of that was mine. Damn it.
Should have told me, Mark. No, sorry about. No, man, all good here. That's obviously, Baylor. You probably picked a good spot. Maybe they just thought like everyone falls from number one. Maybe their coach got in their heads like, don't be like everybody else. Who knows what happened on that one? But I just made a line on it, and it just got far enough for me to bet. But I'm wondering when it's going to be not time to bet them, and I was wondering if it's going to be this game. Fantastic rebounding team. These guys I watched this game. They tried their asses off for every offensive rebound, more than any other team that I see this year. That's what I like to see in a basketball team right there. They are like the Texas Tech from last year. That's how Baylor is. TCU, a below average for a Power 5 team. They won't make the tournament. Terrible road team, only scoring 60 points on the road per game. In saying this, I can see the flat spot coming up. You never know. I mean, it's just like they would have been like, "Whew, we're done with Iowa State. Now we got a home run." Both teams play pretty slow. I lean to the under 126. I've been getting burned on some overtimes lately, so I'm not like rushing to bet unders lately. But
so you had to bring that up too. I had in the NBA last night. I had Chicago, Indiana under the 214. Hits a miracle 3 to send it to overtime, and it was at 200 at the end of regulation, and. Yeah, no, didn't cover.
My God.
Hey, you want to kick my dog while you're at it, too? You want me to bring him on the air?
If I keep this up, you're not going to start coming on anymore. I better shut up. No. No, it's been strange for that this year, and I hope some rules change in basketball to kind of curb some of these foul cities and some of these strange rules that help the overbettors when they don't deserve it. Let's move into Michigan State here versus Wisconsin. I wrote this down at +2.5, and this could be at +5. The opener is going to be low, I think. Over under 131, and I'll start with this because I know the Bucky has had a terrible week this week. I wanted to play. I kind of had this game circled for Wisconsin play. Then Kobe King, their second best player, which ain't saying much, I guess, but he decided to up and leave the team high and dry when they could easily make the NCAA tournament this year with road wins at Penn State, wins at Ohio State. They were on track to make, and he just leaves the team. And to add insult to injury, the Big Ten shortly after decided to suspend Brad Davison for his technical foul in the Iowa game. And this is after Iowa shot 32 free throws and we shot 11. The game just went to hell at the very end, right? Michigan State's only conference loss was on the road this year. And I don't know what to do now. Wisconsin, high variance team, very good at home. Terrible on the road. I've been loving to fade them on the road lately. It's been working, but Michigan State here. I just have to wonder how they're going to do in Wisconsin, and I wonder if Wisconsin now is going to use these two tragic things that happened to shoot out of their goddamn minds for the rest of the people there. They still got Trice, they still got Pritzl at guard, and Trevor Anderson's experience. He was hurt last year, transfer from Green Bay. Kobe King wasn't that great of a player by any means, and he kind of had a bad attitude. And Potter's been playing more and better lately. I wonder if Ravers is going to play hard this game because of it. I think there's a strategy to this game. If you can get Michigan State under 3 when this thing opens on Friday night, you should hit Michigan State no matter what. You should hit that because everyone's going to start realizing that Bucky lost their starting point guard and lost Kobe King, and that thing's going to just go up to 5-6, I think, Michigan State on the road, which might not even be that wrong. But at that point, I'd probably buy back on Wisconsin and try for a middle. Any thoughts on this game, Marco?
Yeah, it's for me. It's Wisconsin or pass, but I want the inflated number there. You're going to get some inflated because of everything that you just said, and the fact that right now people, they're sour on Wisconsin. Let's face it; they've had their bad games. You had Michigan State had that ugly game at Purdue a few back, and they only scored 42 on the road. 71-42 got pounded. Come back, lose to Indiana on the road, and then they took care of business against Minnesota. I think this is a spot where Wisconsin could, pull a surprise, but it's going to be tough to do it when they're undermanned in this game. But still, we know the great equalizer, and that is the point spread. And I just don't see Michigan State as a big margin team here on the road. They're good, but they're not great on the road. And if this does get to the territory of 4.5, 5, I would be interested in the home dog.
And I think you might see it this game. So huge Saturday. People are in Vegas for the Super Bowl. They're going to need to bet. They're going to see Michigan State. Wisconsin is injured. I can see it getting up there, my man. That could be a good spot for us. Well, let's get to the final game we're going to talk about on Saturday. And this game is huge. Kentucky versus Auburn. Best SEC teams. Well, I guess LSU's pretty good too, but they're Auburn's laying -3 points. The total on this game is 143. That's my predicted spread. I just went by kind of what Ken Palms said. Have you got to look at this beast?
Yeah, I did. And what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at the under in this game because I think and my target number is 142. I want 142 or more, and I'm going to go to the under. And this is one of those spots where when you get these nationally televised games with the powerhouses like this, just like we said in the Super Bowl, nobody's betting the they don't want to bet the under. They're going to bet the over in this game. And with the inflated crowd that we're going to have, as you said, on Saturday, they're going to add some to that, and we're going to get a sweet number on the total. And I think you're going to see a big defensive game here. Now, with Kentucky, it's the same story every year. You start the year, all newbies, because everybody went to the NBA. Okay, one and done. You reload. You start out a little slow, you build momentum, you hit conference play in February, you're rolling, and then you peak in March and you make your run. It's the same formula every year for Kentucky. And we're starting to see this team play better and better as every week goes by. So for that, yes, Kentucky would be a temptation here as an underdog. They should come out a small dog in this game. But Auburn, I look at this team, and this is a team that is playing well. They were supposed to take a step back this year because, they lost, guy to the NBA and such, and his name I just blanked on it. He's playing with your team.
Brown?
Yeah, yes. And this is a team that, I didn't expect them to be sitting at 18-2 at this point of the season. Their last game, they almost got cooked. They got almost caught looking ahead. They were down huge to Ole Miss on Tuesday night. Had to rally back from it was nearly 20 points, if not 20 at one point, and sent the game into overtime. Went double overtime before they escaped with the 1-point win. A lot of people say, well, that might have gassed them and give, Kentucky a little more, of an edge here. These are 20-year-old kids, okay? Mm-hmm. I've seen footage of you in 20. You could go for 2 days partying, so not so much anymore, but back in the day. These so don't worry about that factor, but I think you're going to see a hard-nosed defensive game here from them, and Auburn's defense is legit. So 142, we see that number, I'm going under.
Marco, I was a fine young church-going lad. What are you talking about? Oh, man. Yeah, like I said before, these two teams are the best in the SEC, once again, with apologies to LSU. I like what you're saying there. The under makes complete sense. Wait on that, baby. Wait on it, because I'm not even sure sharp money can necessarily affect some of this public money that's going to be coming in on this game. Kentucky 3-1 against the spread as an away team this year. 2-0 as an away underdog. Auburn just 5-6 ATS as a home team this year. Some key things stick out to me. Kentucky was in a flat spot against Vandy. We took the under yesterday on that. And that got kind of close. I expected Kentucky to be winning and just kind of turn that off instead of Vanderbilt's winning. I'm like, well, this could get really bad. But thank God Stackhouse wasn't smart enough to start fouling with a minute left down 6 or 7 points. That's supposed to be the right thing to do. We ended up taking that under. But I think the under is also the right side here. The only games or teams that Auburn played in the top 50 was Florida and Alabama, and they were away games, but they lost them both. They were that 3-point team last year with Bryce Brown, and losing Okeke and Brown, they went from ranking 21st in 3-point percentage to 264th this year at 31%. Auburn is a shorter team than Kentucky. They're going to have some serious matchup problems against guys like Nick Richards down low. I think Kentucky is going to be up for this game as long as Auburn doesn't hit a lot of those outside shots. Now, they could play out of their mind for their coach, and they know it's going to be a very big game, but I think the wrong team might come out favored here. I like the Cats, and I like them all the way to -1.5 points, but I love what you're saying about the under. Any final thoughts?
No, I can't disagree with anything you said, Darren. Everything you said there kind of leans to my under as well with the shooting there.
Absolutely. And quick mention, Sunday, if you want a little action before the Super Bowl, Illinois is playing Iowa. I've been on Illinois all year, as you guys know. Iowa going to be laying 5.5 points. The total is 147. I'm looking at the under in this game. Illinois really slowed it down since last year. The under in Carver Hawkeye Arena this year with Iowa is 13-7. So that's all I wanted to say about this. I'm going to wait till that sucker gets bet up as well, Marco. Do you have any games you want to throw out there?
No, I've been, unfortunately, Kev, it's been a busy media week for me and doing all the shows that we do and everything, and everybody wants to talk about the Super Bowl and the props and everything. So I'll be digging into the weekend games. Friday night I'll be, holed up here in my office till the wee hours of the morning, and we'll get to everything laid out then.
Fantastic, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us, my man. What's going on at Wager Talk actually this week?
Yeah, guys, football season's ending, obviously, but a lot of basketball coverage. We've got, first and foremost, everybody knows we sell picks at the site, but there is more free information at the site to help you pick your own winners. We do daily shows in both college and pro basketball. There's a daily hockey show. I should say Monday through Friday we do these shows. All of our videos that we do in studio, the Bet On It show, we cover some of the big games for the weekend. We did do a video in studio this week on the Kentucky-Auburn game. Check those out, and we've got coverage for tons of props, videos that we did. Just check it out, wagertalk.com, and then go to our YouTube channel and just put in Wager Talk TV.
Well, that's fantastic stuff. Make sure you guys go out and check out wagertalk.com. This is definitely the weekend to do it. Marco, thanks again for coming on. Everyone out there, have a fantastic weekend. Don't be afraid to tweet us any questions you have. Tweet at Marco in Vegas or tweet us at the Oddsbreakers. And this weekend especially, go get some winners.
Show me the money.
Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with meaning, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.